Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for yet another fun-filled discussion on another amazing movie for Film Fanatic. This again, I've just been blown away by so many of these new movies that I've been discovering. There's, always the combination of where I get movies that I've been wanting to see for a while, or movies that I grew up watching, but the majority the majority of the time I'm getting tons of films that I've never seen before, and it's just so awesome. And my collection's been going in a good area. I feel like, especially when it comes to the world of grindhouse exploitation. I moving forward, I'm kind of like changing my mind a little bit as far as certain things, because I feel like all of these movies that I've been buying, especially when I'm going to Bull Moose and all those things, I'm trying to like I always try to focus on getting the more obscure movies, like to a degree seeking out the most obscure movies. And the reason is like from a, it's twofold. From a collector's One reason is it's from a collector's perspective, but then just being such a huge fan, of these movies. And the collector's side of my brain is like, well, I kind of feel like this period that we're living in right now is not going to last forever. And I kind of feel like it's so hot right now, as far as with all of these releases, that it's like it's burning so intently now, so intensely, as far as all of these great companies putting out movies. You have Severin, you have Mondo Macabra, just an endless amount of companies, Blue Underground, just it's just been Synapse, Shout Factory. The last few years has been just an amazing period, and I feel like it's truly like a movie renaissance, because they're reissuing, they're re-releasing all of these crazy and wild exploitation movies. And a lot of the films have had some kind of impact, or they had some success. When they came out, like you have directors like Dario Gento or Lucio Fulci or Herschel Gordon Lewis. Names that are pretty well known in the world of horror exploitation or and exploitation. But there's also you know tons of other directors and other films that just didn't, you know, might not have really had that good distribution deal, or just didn't make a some profit, or make their money back. So the coolest thing about this renaissance is that, now all these movies have come back, and what I see in following a lot of these movies and seeing where things are going is a lot of these guys and people who are involved in these really obscure movies and these super low budget movies are kind of getting a second life. They're kind of making a little bit of money. They're suddenly being there's suddenly an interest in a lot of these films that were totally forgotten, and they're being invited to conventions, and they're you know their social media platforms are blowing up. The sales for certain movies, or the sales for these movies have, the demand for these movies has gone up. It's pretty amazing. And that's, to me, is a really great bonus of the plus sides of the digital age that we're in. Just pretty wild. But the other thing too is, I always have in my mind that it's not going to last forever, and I kind of feel like it's almost, to a degree, too good to be true. Like, well, it is true because it's happening, but it's not gonna nothing lasts forever, and I feel like this is going so hot and steady right now, for the most part, it's probably going to go away. I don't know, and so a lot of these movies are going to probably go away again. So my collectors, you know, from my collectors part of my brain, I'm snatching up as many and as often as I can because it's amazing, and I don't know if this chance is going to come around again in a couple of years, and how any of these movies, like it's amazing to me too to see that there's an audience for these just totally bizarre low budget movies, and that people, this, yeah, obviously a small group of the society or fraction of the movie society who, people who love movies, but they're they're hardcore, and I consider myself to be part of that. So it's pretty awesome. So I'm, trying to snatch up as many titles as I possibly can, especially in the world of grindhouse exploitation, and to see all of these movies get this amazing treatment, just 4K and just beautiful packaging. It's just wonderful. Just last night, I was watching a live stream with the some of the folks who work at Mondo Macabro, which is my favorite movie label. They specialize in out of the labels that I've been into lately, the last few years, and labels I've been discovering. I I definitely think Mondo Macabra takes the deepest dive. They focus on the most, hard to get, most obscure movies out there, and pretty much 100% of their movies that I've bought, I've never seen before. I never heard before, and there hasn't been one that I have bought that has sucked. Every one that I have gotten has just been so damn fun and so awesome and just crazy. Just totally insane. And the diversity. They really specialize in a lot of Asian films. I've been getting got a bunch of Japanese films recently. There's a bunch of movies from Indonesia that came out. It's just wild, and they really specialize in a lot of European films. So it's just wondrous. It's amazing. And so the other day, or I should say, when was it? Sunday? No, Monday on the holiday, Labor Day weekend. I went to Boom Moose again. Surprise, surprise. My home away from home, and I bought this movie that I had heard about. I have never seen this film, and I was sold on the packaging. I was just like, yes, this looks amazing. It was a little bit more expensive than I thought, and it was a little bit more money than what I usually spend on movies. But god damn, was it worth it? And that is this movie here, Night of the Demon. I mean, look at this cover. This is what I was sold on. I never heard of this movie, but the cover is just look. I mean, it's just amazing, and it's got this on the back here. Beautiful packaging. This was put out by Severin. Severin is one of the best companies around. And then it's got the the original artwork here. It's 2 discs. I just finished this movie. I just watched it last night, and it's got a whole bonus disc of special features on here. Just extraordinary. And this movie is completely fucking crazy in every way, and just amazing. And I'm a huge fan of anything, any story, any movie, tied to Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And there's a whole ton of movies that came out, especially in exploitation decades, about Bigfoot. And this is essentially a Bigfoot movie. And it might be the best one I've ever seen. There's some really great ones out there. There's one called Creature Creature from Black Lake, which is really awesome. That's a Bigfoot movie, and that's a badass movie. And then there's also Suburban Sasquatch, which is a somewhat more recent movie, which is super amazing, and it's all shot on video. That movie is just completely insane. But Night of the Demon, I never heard of this movie either, and it came out in 1980. I kind of feel like this movie, as great as those movies are, and they're amazing, I kind of feel like this is almost next level, just because of how brutal this movie is, and just how bizarre, so bizarre. The storyline is just completely nuts. And it ties in like these really strange kind of religious themes at times, and also like focuses on like kind of to a degree like Christian fundamentalism. There's also the idea of like cult worship, where without giving anything away, there's a huge group of people that live in this town where this story takes place, and they basically look at the figure of Bigfoot or Sasquatch as a god, so they worship him, and it's just totally crazy. And there's a scene of where that's pretty brutal. I mean, this movie is pretty brutal, but it's so funny and goofy and ridiculous. But it's pretty brutal too. The gore is amazing in this. But there's a rape. There's one thing in this movie that is so weird and so kind of disturbing. But there's a rape scene in this movie where Bigfoot essentially rapes one of the female characters, and she becomes impregnated with his baby, and the baby is like this, mutant kind of life form that she gives birth to, and it's like half Bigfoot, half human, and it's all like, fucked up looking and mangled, and the father of this daughter, who is this like hardcore Christian fundamentalist, basically tries to abort and kill the baby, as soon as she gives birth, and it's just totally insane, totally nuts. The kills in this movie are just fantastic. The music is just incredible, very psychedelic, very trippy, very weird, super uber low budget. Beautifully shot though. I mean, this came out in 1980. I'd heard about this movie, in passing, but I never saw it. And again, when I was sold on this cover, like, just that's one of the most badass covers ever, and I think they should. I would wear that if that was in a T-shirt form. But it was a little bit more expensive. It was almost $30, but so freaking worth it. And it comes with all kinds of special features. I haven't even watched any of the special features yet. But and this was put out by Severin. Severin is again one of the greatest companies around. They do some unbelievable work. I have quite a few of their titles at this point. And they really, they kind of are similar to Mondo Macabre. They take a pretty deep dive in some obscure movies. This movie was directed. It's crazy. This movie was shot in 1980, and then it wasn't released until 1983. So it was like basically on the shelf for like 3 years until it got a distribution deal. And it was directed by James C. Wasson. Um, who I have no idea who he is. Never heard of him before. Um, but just fabulous, fabulous. And like I said in the beginning of the show, that for me, this is an example of my favorite aspect of doing all of this stuff is discovering movies I've never seen before, and just being totally, just taken on this totally insane ride, and just enjoying every minute of it. And one of the cool things too that this is a big way of how I discovered directors. Directors that I knew about, or I might have seen one or two of their movies, like years and years ago when I was a kid. But at that age, I didn't really, wasn't something I thought about or focused on. Two examples of that, two directors that I have rediscovered and have been really loving their movies, and I've been buying a lot more of their movies when I get the chance. Um, Jess Franco, the amazing exploitation director from Spain, primetime example of that. And then also Sergio Martino, amazing exploitation director who kind of really specialized in the giallo world filmmaking. He's another one I've been just. I'd seen a couple of his things probably when I was a kid, but now I'm just like, and I bought a few of his movies recently, and I've just been like, wow, like this stuff is just super cool. So, it's fantastic. And so getting back to the Night of the Demon, this was directed by James C. Wasson. Again, I never heard of this film before. Never first time viewing. I took a chance, dropped a little bit. I dropped a little bit of extra cash on this movie, and I was blown away by it. And James C. Wasson was a director, writer, and producer in the '80s. Certain movies he's worked on was From Maui with Love in 1989, Island Heat in '89, The Next Valentino in '88, Ranch Hand in '88, Chip Off the Old Block in '86, What the Boys Eat in 1985. These movies are just crazy. Windows in '84, and of course, Night of the Demon, 1980, and Dreamer in '75. Just super cool. And again, I had no idea who this guy is, um, and I've been just totally blown away by it. And it's just it's wonderful. It's again, it always just comes back to this is the best part of this whole venture for me is discovering all of these bizarre, obscure movies. And I kind of think that this last week going up to Boom Release was one of my best hauls of movies. Because I got Private Parts, which is just for me an exploitation masterpiece, and that was a movie I was looking for a really long time, and to find that on Blu-ray, a really good edition of it, is mind blowing. So, and again, this was the other movie I bought, and I got a couple other ones I'm gonna get to. Super cool, but I highly recommend this. And the transfer of this to Blu-ray 4K is amazing. The soundtrack is just killer, super bizarre. It's kind of a psychedelic movie. It has a very psychedelic feel to it. Very weird electronic music. Just love it to death. So, Night of the Demon, 1980. If you get a chance, please see this movie. It's definitely one. Some of the gore in this movie is kind of shocking, but in a good way. It's super gore, super gory to the all the way up to 11. So it's just wonderful. So this is Jason Dean. So thanks again for your support, and we will see you next time. Peace.